Two Chairs No Waiting, episode number 669. The eBullet, January 2022. Two Chairs No Waiting is brought to you by WeaversDepartmentStore.com. Head over to Weavers and check out some of the great Mayberry items they have there, including Mayberry's finest country bacon. That's right, you can get bacon with Barney right there on the front. It's good bacon. It's that thick cuts. It's good. Head over to Weavers and check that out. And while you're there, you might want to get you a hat. The Mayberry Patrol Car emblem cap is all for you. Head over to Weavers Department Store and see what they got over there. Two Chairs No Waiting is also brought to you by donations by listeners like you. The executive producer of episode number 669 is Mike McGonigal. Thank you, Mike, for supporting the podcast, and thank you for being here with me as well. Man, it's always so good to be here in Mayberry, and it's even better this week because wow, what a week I had last week. My computer completely crashed. All my podcast equipment, which is my computer, crashed last week right after the show. Luckily, I'd already finished the show, had all the audio and video ready to go. And so I was able to use my laptop to finish up. But wow, it was a blessing of when it happened because it gave me an entire week to try to recover. So I could be here on Monday nights when we record this live at 8 p.m. Eastern time. I was able to make the recording tonight and had some folks in our chat room tonight helping me make sure everything was working correctly. And I really do appreciate everybody's that were here to help me. And thank you just being here as well. Man, like I said, it's so good. Now, we're going to get to talk tonight about the eBullet. Now, what is the eBullet? Oh, my goodness. If you don't know, I feel like I've let you down. But the eBullet is the electronic newsletter of the Andy Griffith Show Rerun Watchers Club. And wow, if you don't have it, I just don't know what to tell you. Because the eBullet is amazing. You can subscribe. If you go to the eBullet, if you go to imayberry.com and then click on the front page there, it's real easy to get to the eBullet. So the eBullet is right there at the top of the page at imayberry.com. And when you go there, you can see all the archives, you can see all the latest editions, and there's a subscribe button right there. And then when you actually go to the eBullet, the subscribe button's right there on the top of the page too. You can subscribe and get it by email, and it'll be sent to you, and you won't have to wait on me to tell you about it here in the podcast. But thankfully, we have the ability to do that, and I want to thank Jim Clark from the Andy Griffith Show Rerun Watchers Club, the Goober Emeritus is what he calls himself, for putting together the eBullet and doing all the research and getting things all together. And it is always great to be able to just share some of the content that he has worked so hard to put together for us. And you're going to get to experience some of it tonight. I'm not going to try to read all this to you. You need to subscribe and get it sent to you in the mailbox, or head over to imayberry.com and click the link and go read it for yourself. And go back and read some of the old issues too, because Jim has done some amazing work over the many years that he's been doing it. This is the 22nd year of the eBullet. It just started. So this is issue 1 of the 22nd year of eBullets. Oh my goodness. That is a long time, isn't it? All right. So let's get a little, I think just a little background music. Let's make it a little fun. There we go. A little background music for the eBullet. So we're heading over now to check that out. And then we're going to hear from Randy Turner. We're going to have a little bit of Mayberry trivia perhaps. And we're just going to have a little bit of fun tonight. All right, is everybody ready? So let's roll this thing out here. All right, so the eBullet, this is from January 2022 is this issue. And so here we go. All right, welcome to the first issue of the eBullet 2022. This year marks the beginning of our 5th decade. Oh my goodness, of publishing either the eBullet or publishing either the Bullet, which was our original printed newsletter for the first 2 decades, and then the online eBullet, which has been published the last 2 decades. Oh my goodness. This is amazing. Great job, Jim. That is really great. So you guys have got to check this out. Those of us that are old enough to have read the first issue, oh, that hurts, are officially no spring chickens anymore, but we're still clocking. Things are things are generally pretty quiet around Mayberry this time of year. But even more so with the recent storms and ongoing, well, it's just been the pandemic. We all know about this. There's nevertheless still news here and there as some of the Mayberry stars have been out and about for appearances and performances. A few chapters have also been able to have some safe gatherings. Several events are already on the schedule for the 2022 calendar, and we expect to add a few more by the time our next issue hits the streets. And there's always something interesting happening at Weaver's department store, so when in doubt, shop. Boy, that is good advice. No matter which ways you enjoy experiencing Mayberry, and it's hard to beat just watching the Andy Griffith Show, there's a lot to look forward to in 2022. So, one of the sections of the eBullet, if you're not familiar with, is called Floyd's Barbershop Bulletin Board and Event Calendar. If you're ever looking for what's going to be going on in and around Mayberry, this is the place to go, is to go to the bulletin board or event calendar. You can also check out the event calendar on imayberry.com. It has the same information. Matter of fact, links to the same locations to get this information, and Jim Clark maintains it all. One thing we want to tell you is the Andy Griffith Museum, featuring the late Emmett Forrest monumental collection of Andy Griffith Show artifacts, is operating in full and in a normal schedule for their own safety and the safety of those around them. As the pandemic lingers, all guests are required to wear masks indoors and near others. For complete information, you can head over to andygriffithmuseum.org and get that information. There's also a phone number. If you'd like to see the phone number, head over to the eBullet and you can find it right there. Here are some of the happenings that are coming up that folks know about that have been posted here on Floyd's Barbershop Bulletin Board. On March the 3rd through the 5th, the 25th annual George Lindsay UNA Film Festival in Florence, Alabama will be held. For more information, you can visit either lindsayfilmfest.com or the festival's page on Filmway or filmfreeway.com. It's FILM Freeway, FREEWAY.com. The full schedule, including the screening of the Mayberry Man movie. That's right, they'll be screening the Mayberry Man movie at the George Lindsay Film Festival, and other guests are to be determined. I can tell you, since you're listening to the podcast, that I know Floyd Larson will be there, and so will Briscoe and Otis from the movie. So you can expect them to be there. They have not yet scheduled exactly what date that will be shown or be screened there at the film festival, but keep looking. It's going to be soon. You can check out here on the podcast. We'll be telling it, and also check back at the event calendar where that information will be held. On March the 12th, Karen Knotts, the daughter of Don Knotts, brings her One Woman Tied Up in Knots show to the Smoot Theater in Parkersburg, West Virginia. The showtime is 8 p.m. Tickets are reserved seating for $25 each and may be purchased at Smoot Theater, that's spelled with a R-E.com. Smoot, it's S-M-O-O-T-H. No, it's Smoot, not Smooth. It's Smoot, S-M-O-O-T. Smoot Theater. I don't think I was saying that right. So the information, if you can't understand me, is head over to imayberry.com and check out the event calendar, or check it out in the eBullet. That's where we're getting this from. Also, then on March the 13th, that's on the 12th. On the 13th, she's going to be doing Tied Up in Knots at the Metropolitan Theater in her dad's hometown of Morgantown, West Virginia. The showtime for that is at 4 p.m. Tickets are also $25, and you can check that out at morgantownmet.com. All right, March the 15th. March the 15th. Some people like Ron Howard and Clint Howard, that seems like I've heard of them. They talk about their memoir and their careers in show business at Desert Town Hall Lecture Series in Indian Wells, California. So if you're out in California, check it out. There's a phone number you can call to get more information, and check it out in the eBullet. On April the 8th and 9th, Keith Thibodeau, Johnny Paul Jason himself, and of course he was Little Ricky on I Love Lucy, is the special guest that's announced for the Mayberry I Love Lucy Day in Granville, Tennessee. which is the home of the unique combo Mayberry Lucy Museum. It's worth seeing. Popular Mayberry and Lucy and Desi tribute artists will be on hand. Again, I can tell you this. It's going to be Floyd the Barber, Barney, but Rick Roberts will be there as Barney. Going to have me as Floyd the Barber. Going to have Ken Junkin as Otis, Bo Pierce as Briscoe Darling, and as Andalina, Charlene's daughter, going to have Chrissy McClendon. Great lineup there. And they're also going to have a Darlin-style bluegrass music as we go on through there. Now, most of the festivities are going to be on Saturday, and it'll be early Saturday morning, be over by probably 4 o'clock. But there will be a dinner theater, a Mayberry dinner theater, performing. They're going to perform at the theater there. They're going to do dedicated to Betty Lynn on both Friday and Saturday at 5:30 p.m. You do require reservations. You can check for information about that and the festival if you go to Granville. It's GranvilleTN, Tennessee.com. So it's GranvilleTennessee.com. Granville.tn or GranvilleTN.com. Whew. Again, just go check it out. Don't listen to what I say. Go look it in the eBullet. All right. So next up, we know of big event is September 19th through the 25th is the 33rd annual Mayberry Days Festival in Mount Airy, North Carolina. Tickets are already on sale. There's a link in the eBullet to go to the link to go there. You can get things that we know about are like the Emmett Golf Tournament, including the Mayberry Days Dinner and Entertainment if you go. And you can also get tickets just for those. There's a concert by the Dillards featuring Rodney Dillard, Professor Brower's class, and there's going to be more going on as well. Visit mayberrydays.com for more information and to get tickets. It's all there. And Lord willing, finally, on October the 23rd through the 29th, we're going to have, with special guest Clint Howard, we'll be going on the Mayberry Cruise 15. It's been postponed for 2 years. Hopefully we can pull it off this year and this COVID thing will be over. And we're going to be going on the cruise, the Mayberry Cruise. It ought to be great. The cruise is aboard Carnival's Horizon and will depart from Miami and travel to the Caribbean with 2 ports of call in Grand Cayman and Ocho Rios. I'm sure I did not say that right. And Cozumel. That sounds like 3 ports of call. Wow. This should be great fun. All the rates and all the information like that are available. The rates start at $625. I forgot how many days that cruise is going to be. It's an extra day, I believe. Anyway, check that out. You can get more information by going to their website, All About Cruises NC, I believe is right. And you can also email. There's an email that you can get in touch with and a phone number to get in touch with Sharon all about the cruise. So make sure you get to cruise. They're a lot of fun. Clint Howard's going to be our special guest. A bunch of tribute artists will be on there. Lord willing, we'll be able to pull that off this year. Can't wait. All right, so the next portion of the eBullet is news of cast and crew. Ron Howard has his usual full slate of movies in various states of production. On the directing side, his 13 Lives movie about the Thailand cave rescue is scheduled for release nationwide on April the 15th. Ron is also in post-production in his documentary about Chef Jose Andres. On the producing side, big projects for Ron and Imagine Entertainment, including TikTok Boom, which had a limited theatrical release and with critical acclaim, and BOFO audience reviews. What does that mean, Jim? BOFO, BOFFO audience. I should have looked that up. I don't know what that word means. Anyway, the reviews from the audience in November and is now streaming. Also in the pipeline are Mars 2080 and Beanie Bubble, among many others for big and small screen. The other big Imagine news, the company is in talks to sell a majority share of the company to London-based investment company. Ron and longtime business partner Brian Glazer previously sold a majority stake of the company a few years ago. I didn't know that. This new majority stake would presumably include much of the old majority stake. Ron and Brian have been turning over many of day-to-day operation reins in recent years. I didn't know that. Wow, this is good news. I guess that means maybe Ron's kind of ready to slow down and retire a little bit and just do what he wants to. That is really good. Meanwhile, Ron and his brother Clint, their memoir, The Boys, continues to see a steady sales amid glowing reviews by critics and fans alike. Let me step out of this for just a second. It's a great book. We haven't been with Weavers, but it is a great book. If you haven't read it, I definitely encourage you to. I really enjoyed it. Back to the eBullet. At the end of December, an online estate sale auction for the late Betty Lynn was conducted in Mount Airy by Mount Airy's Rogers Realty and Auction Company, the same firm that conducted the estate auction for Francis Bavier in 1990. Proceeds from the 118 items sold in the auction topped $50,000, which benefited several charities designated by Betty. It no doubt would have pleased her ever generous Betty. It would have pleased Betty to know that so many of her personal items would find happy new homes and at the same time support causes that were important to her. Rodney Dillard and his Dillard Band performed at the Bluegrass Music Hall of Fame and Museum in Owensboro, Kentucky on January the 15th. Even the massive storm that was on the march across the region didn't deter the boys and girls from getting back on the truck and putting on a foot-stomping show. Rodney, it's a great picture that has in here of Rodney in front of a wall of legends and him just grinning at the plaques for the Dillards right there in the Bluegrass Music Hall of Fame. It's worth looking at. Go and check out the eBullet. An interview with Rodney aired on Raleigh's WRAL-TV earlier in the month of January 2020. And there's a link in the eBullet to a 3-minute interview, which was conducted at Mayberry Days last September. In addition to his appearance in the upcoming Mayberry I Love Lucy Day in Granville, Tennessee in April, Keith Thibodeau is busy with the 2022 tour schedule for Ballet Magnificat. I always hope I'm saying that right. The Christian ballet company that he and his wife Kathy co-founded and run. There's a link to a 6-minute interview that Keith did with Tulsa TV station on January the 18th here in the eBullet, so go and check it out. He talks about the ballet, his ministry, and I Love Lucy, not the Andy Griffith Show, but Keith's always engaging with his thoughtful comments, so it's definitely an interview you might want to check out. Karen Knotts has been busy promoting her Tied Up in Knots memoir. It's a book she wrote. We have them here at Weavers, including a guest on the installment of Huckabee TV show that aired January the 15th. She also has some dates of her Tied Up in Knots stage show coming up. Just talked about them in the calendar. It's been a sad time for Maggie Peterson Mancuso. Gus Mancuso, her beloved husband of nearly 44 years, passed away in Las Vegas of complications from Alzheimer's disease on December the 9th. He was 88 years old. As Mayberry fans occasionally were able to experience when he joined Maggie on stage to perform at Mayberry events, Gus was a world-class musical virtuoso. Though he usually played only piano at the Mayberry events, Gus mastered a staggering number of instruments and was revered by his fellow jazz musicians. There's an excellent tribute to Gus in the Las Vegas Review-Journal. There's a link in the eBullet that you can check out. For many fans of great music who didn't already have the Gus Mancuso and Special Friends CD, it's a superb collection of his music. Beyond his music, Gus was a super nice person who greeted everyone with a warm smile, as many friends and fans were lucky to know firsthand through the years. In addition to Maggie, Gus is survived by his son, Ronnie. All of Mayberry mourns with him. Well, that's a wrap for the news of Cast and Crew. We got really don't have too much of a chapters update this time. There's no new chapters were started since the November eBullet, But our grand total of chapters since the Andy Griffith Show Rerun Watchers Club was founded in 1979 stands at 1,475. 1,475. We first started having chapters in 1982, beginning with the Andy chapter in Nashville and the Barney chapter in Greensboro, North Carolina. Starting a chapter is pretty easy, and the information about how to do it is right here in the eBullet. And whether you start a chapter or not, there's places online that you can go and be a part of the fun. Now, the eBullet also has information about all the brand new stuff or things at the Weaver's department store. I won't go through all those, even though I'd like to, except for I would like to mention the Maggie Peterson Mancuso collection that we have at Weaver's. Head over to Weaver's and check that out. All the money that is from that, other than like shipping cost, goes directly to Maggie. Weaver's is not taking a part of that. So if you would like to support Maggie and help her out with expenses and things, because her health has not been that good, you can go and read about some of this. You can purchase these 8x10 pictures and different things. There's also a GoFundMe page for Maggie if you'd be interested in doing that. So please go over to Weaver's and check that out. And check out the eBullet. All right, so we're going to just hit a few chapter news things because this is always a lot of reading. There's so much in here. I definitely encourage you to go and look at all the hard work Jim Clark puts into this, and we just thank him so much. So in chapter news, a lot of chapters, as well as members of chapters, checked in with the Andy chapter, which is the Rerun Watchers Club headquarters in Nashville during the holidays. It's always really nice to hear from folks sharing season's greetings and to know that they're doing well during these times of so much hunkering down. Some members of the Andy chapter also got together with members of the Fibberly Gibbet chapter in Albuquerque, New Mexico for the holidays. That's awesome. Members of the Barney chapter in Greensboro, North Carolina gathered for their Christmas party, which is always a highlight for the year for the fabled group. Others getting together during the holidays included the Mayberry chapter in Knoxville, Tennessee. The group also participated in a Christmas parade in Carnes, Tennessee, as they do almost every year. And in the November issue of the Mayberry Minute, their 16-page full-color newsletter from the Mayberry chapter there in Knoxville, was another blockbuster full of great content and information. And there's a great picture of them just enjoying themselves that's in the eBullet. The chapter celebrated Maggie Peterson's birthday with a call to Maggie and a cake. They plan to gather to watch the Mayberry Man movie in February and to celebrate Joy Ellison's birthday in March. You can keep up with the chapter online, getting info about subscribing and all that kind of stuff. You can join and get their newsletter. It's a printed copy. So if you'd like to have a print newsletter, you can head over to mayberrychapter.com and get the information. It's $20 a year and you get all kinds of cool stuff. The members of the mother figure chapter of Huntsville, that's me and Jan, traveled to Nashville earlier this month to see a taping of Karen Knott's appearance at the Huckabee TV show. We did, and got to at least saw Karen. She was I didn't get to speak to her after it was over, but it was good to see her. Mother figure chapters will also be joined by members of the Hearty Eating Men and Beautiful Delicate Women chapter from Tuscaloosa, and possibly the Mayberry chapter and others at screening of Mayberry Man at 2 p.m. on January the 30th at the landmark Princess Theater in Decatur, Alabama. That's right. So head over to Decatur. You can go there at Decatur, Alabama. There's a link. If you go to princesstheater.org, you can order tickets. The tickets are only $7. It'll be a Sunday afternoon matinee at 2 p.m. We're going to have, as I said earlier, I think we're going to have Otis and Floyd and Briscoe will all be there. So it's going to be a great time. So that is our news around the chapters. There's information about stuff going on the internet. I want to encourage you, if you haven't, if you don't like Facebook, if you don't like things like that, or even if you do, there's a place called iMayberry Community, which is an online community kind of like Facebook that you can join that's just Mayberry fans. That's all it is. It was created by me. I was the one that started it. And Keith Brown, Colonel Harvey, He's the one who actually maintains it and keeps everything running. He's the man. He's the man there. So head over and check that out, imayberrycommunity.com. And of course, we got here the podcast. Head over to twocairsnowaiting.com, and you can check out not just this podcast, but also Burke on Mayberry, and also Brian Rose's podcast, A Mayberry Devotion. You can go and check that out. So there's more information in there. I am going to leave it at that. And I hope you have gotten your fix for some of the Mayberry information. If you're enjoying this, please go and like and subscribe and all the kind of stuff you do with the podcast, just so it'll help other people find it as well. All right. So I hope you're enjoying that. I hope you enjoyed all this. And now I think it's time we're going to go try to play a little Mayberry trivia. What do you think? So let's do that. Ready? And then we'll hear from Randy Turner with This Week in Mayberry History. So get your pencils and paper. That's my music there. I got two things of music playing, sounds like. There we go. All right, question number 1. Y'all ready? Andy didn't want Opie to see the beast that ate Minnesota. Is that true or false? Andy didn't want Opie to see the beast that ate Minnesota. True or false? True or false? Let me pull up where I can see the chat room. True or false? Andy didn't want Opie to see the beast that ate Minnesota. The answer is false. It's false. That's not true. I think Goober saw that maybe. All right, number 2. Who was the justice of the peace in Mayberry? You have to do remedial homework if you miss this question. Who was the justice of the peace in Mayberry? Remedial work. You got to go and watch all the episodes. Who was the justice of the peace in Mayberry? The answer, if you don't know, I'm very disappointed, is Andy Taylor. Andy Taylor is the justice of the peace in Mayberry. Number 3. At what town's justice of the peace did Andy pay a fishing fine? At what town's justice of the peace did Andy pay a fishing fine? Okay, this is a little hard. At what town's justice of the peace did Andy pay a fishing fine? The answer is Siler City. He paid a fishing fine at the Justice of the Peace in Siler City. All right, so I see at least one person in the chat room got that. Alrighty. All right, so number 4. How much was Andy's fine for fishing without a license? Ooh. How much was Andy's fine for fishing without a license? You got it? All right, this is a hard one. Let me give you a multiple choice on it. How much was Andy's fine for fishing without a license? Was it $5, $10, $15, or $25? So you can guess now. How much was his fine for fishing without a license? The answer is it was $25. My goodness, how much was $25 in 1962 or 3? Whew, goodness. All right, that's number 4. Here's number 5. Barney never took Juanita to Morelli's. True or false? Barney never took Juanita to Morelli's. True or false? Barney never took Juanita to Morelli's. True or false? The answer is false. That's false. All right. Number 6. Who owned the book Poems of Romance? 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 The answer is Barney. Barney knew that. All right, Barney's the one that owned the book. Number 7. How much did a temporary deputy earn for their services? How much did a temporary deputy earn for their services? How much did a temporary deputy earn for their services? All right. The answer is $5. Last question. Who drove Andy and Helen to Myers Lake's picnic? Who drove Andy and Helen to Myers Lake picnic? Who drove Andy and Helen to the Myers Lake picnic? Okay. Multiple choice? Okay. Who drove Helen and Andy to the Myers Lake picnic? Was it Barney, Gomer, Andy, or Goober? The answer is it was Goober. It was Goober. All right. All right. Well, how did you do? Hope you did pretty well. Yeah, I hope it went well for you. All right. So it is now time. Hope you did a good job. Those are kind of hard. Some of those are pretty hard to me. I don't know. But it's now time to hear from Randy Turner. So let's head on over.
Welcome to This Week in Mayberry History, a report by Special Correspondent Randy Turner of the Gomer and Cooper Pyle Comic Book Literary Guild of the Mayberry Historical Society.
This week, we continue our deep dive into the extensive career of Lurene Tuttle, who Mayberry fans know as Annabelle Silby, and the old lady shoplifter whom Barney posed as a mannequin to catch. As noted last week, while continuing to work in radio where she earned the nicknames The Rock and the First Lady of Radio, Lurene began appearing frequently in films and television as well. Lurene had an advantage in radio in that she could play any type of role, be it a teenager or a femme fatale. That advantage did not extend to film and television, where the audience actually sees the actor. But while the types of roles she could play was thus limited, Lurene still appeared in far more films and TV series than I can list here. Still, some specifics should be noted. Lurene appeared alongside Marilyn Monroe in one of the Platinum Blonde's best dramas, Don't Bother to Knock, in 1952, and was also in the Monroe film Niagara in 1953. That same year, she guest starred in an episode of the TV version of the George Burns and Gracie Allen Show, having previously appeared more than a dozen times in the Husband and Wife's radio series. Later that year, she repeated the pattern by appearing in the TV version of The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet, after having appeared in nearly 24 episodes of the radio version of that popular show. Also in 1953, she appeared in an episode of I Love Lucy. But of particular note is in that same year, Lurene began playing the female lead in the series Life with Father, based on the earlier book and the 1947 film. The series ran 3 seasons, with columnist Hedda Hopper calling Lurene and co-star Leon Ames pairing 22-carat casting. After that series ended, Lurene continued to appear in all 3 areas of her acting work over the rest of the decade. In radio, she appeared in the CBS Radio Workshop, Heartbeat Theater, Suspense, and Have Gun Will Travel. In film, she was seen in several movies, most notably in the 1957 Untamed Youth, alongside sex symbol Mamie Van Doren and rock and roll musician Eddie Cochran. In television, Lurene was particularly active, appearing in numerous anthology series, as well as Broken Arrow, The Gray Ghost, Dead or Alive, The Danny Thomas Show, Perry Mason, and Leave It to Beaver. Lurene appeared twice in The Real McCoys as Luke McCoy's mother-in-law. And if that all wasn't enough, she also continued to voice the occasional animated character. In 1960, Lurene had a starring role against her usual type in a movie playing the psychopathic mother of sons she trains to become criminals in the neo-noir Ma Barker's Killer Brood. An unusual film for her career? Well, let's just say that the poster featured her blazing away with a Tommy gun. But also in 1960, she appeared in a role more her norm. Lurene made her first appearance in Mayberry. In the 8th episode of The Andy Griffith Show, Lurene played Annabelle Silby, who faked a funeral rather than admit her husband had left her. In 1961, Lurene played a recurring character twice in Pete and Gladys, and appeared in other series such as Rawhide and The Asphalt Jungle. That same year, she became a regular cast member in Father of the Bride, reuniting with Leon Ames, though this time Ames played the title character, while Lurene played Doris Dunstan, the mother of the groom. She continued to appear in series as varied as Hazel, Dr. Kildare, and The Munsters. She returned to Mayberry in 1964 as a little old lady shoplifter who ought never to clink. She was in The Twilight Zone, My Three Sons, Petticoat Junction, and The Beverly Hillbillies. She also still appeared in the occasional movie, such as the 1968 Disney film The Horse in the Gray Flannel Suit, a far cry from the matriarch of a crime family. 1968 also saw Lurene cast in the television role for which she is best known. She played Hannah Yarby, the head nurse on the series Julia. That series starred the beautiful Diane Carroll as an African-American nurse juggling her career with being a single mom. The series was only the second to star an African-American in a non-stereotypical role, starting the fall after the conclusion of the first series to do so, Sheldon Leonard's I Spy. Lurene stayed with Julia for 2 seasons, though the series ran for 3. Now in her 60s, Lurene did not slow down. We'll look at the conclusion of Lurene's career next week, and that's it for this week. As always, thanks for listening, and remember to take care of yourself, take care of others, and take Andy's advice, and go out there and act like somebody.
Thank you, Randy. Gosh, he comes up with such good stuff. If you want to make sure you don't miss out on what Randy's doing, you can check him out by sending him an email at turnersgrade@gmail.com, and he'll make sure you don't miss anything he's doing. turnersgrade@gmail.com. So thank you, Randy, for that. I really appreciate it. And while I looked it up, guys, the $25 fine for fishing without a license in recent years, that's about $25 then is worth about $220 now, $221.27, depending on inflation and all that stuff. But that's about how much it is. Oh, that is a lot. That's a big fine for fishing. Some of the folks in the chat room said he should have just got married. There's only a $5 license for that. That's a good point. Oh, that is a good point. So friends, I want to thank you for being here with me. I want to encourage you to subscribe to the eBullet, as I just mentioned. If you're watching this on YouTube or go and like the video, subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you will help us notify other people about the podcast, because a lot of people find us through YouTube. And if you're an audio listener, make sure you subscribe to the podcast where it gets delivered to you on your phone, your iPhone, your Android phone. You can do it in the podcast app for either iPhones or Android. It's easy to do, and you won't miss out on any of what I'm doing here on the internet. Folks, it is always great to be here with you in Mayberry. I want to encourage you to give me a call at 888-684-8415 or to email me at floyd@imayberry.com. If you can't remember, you don't have to email me to ask, because if you can email me to ask, you can also just email me and give me your comments. Or you can head over to twocairsnowaiting.com and check it out there, because that's where the link is of how to get to me. There's a link about contacts under, I think it's under About or something. But go and check it out. You can get to me that way. Folks, I love hearing from you. We got some voicemails. I didn't get a chance to play them this week. We'll play them next week. Have a safe week. I hope I can see you in Decatur, Alabama, coming up this Sunday. And if not, we'll see you here on Two Chairs.